With draft week officially starting on Monday, I wanted to take one last time to talk about all the options the Cardinals can do with 16, whether it be trading up, staying at 16, or trading back. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, man, turn notifications on, leave a review if you so desire. You know, I'm just happy that you're here. So starting next week, things get real. Things get real in the sense that we still don't know what the hell is going to happen until Thursday, unless there are some trades that happen, unless the Cardinals, for example, poor Hemplo, just trade for Jalen Ramsey, things like that. We're not going to really know anything until the bell goes with the first overall pick. And then, as we get towards 9, 10, 11, the chance for the Cardinals moving up, that's where things come into the fray. So what I wanted to do today was one last exercise together to kind of brainstorm and groupthink. Groupthink would be with more than one voice, but let's just pretend we're all talking here on the rigid options the Cardinals have. Trade up from 16, stay at 16, or trade back. Now, predicated upon packages, of course. But I'll go through a couple little things with each segment, and we can kind of decide what the best thing for the Cardinals would be. This is going to be open-ended. I'm going to give my final thoughts on Wednesday of next week on position, player choice, and if they should trade up or trade back. I think it's good to wait until the final second because we have no idea what the hell is going to happen between now and Wednesday of next week on the precipice of Thursday, naturally, where the draft is. So, first option, trade up. Now, I talked a little bit towards the tail end of yesterday's show, opening the door to it's not a no way, no how situation for them to trade up. Okay. This is something that we see from time to time where teams will trade up a pick. Teams will trade up 2 picks. We saw it with Jalen Carter. They leapfrogged, I think, Chicago during the Paris Johnson Jr. draft to 9 to draft Jalen Carter. The Eagles did. I believe that was 9. That's more what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a 12-6. A 16-8, like 12-6 with the Cardinals did with the Texans in 2023, a 16-8. That's not what I'm talking about. The world that needs to happen for this to become a possibility is more quarterbacks going early, like that sneaky Michael Penix one. Maybe a wide receiver going in the top 10 to go along with Ashton Genty, where if you've got a Mason Graham that drops, he won't, but I'm using him as an example. A Will Campbell that drops to 10 or something like that. And you're like, 16 or Will Campbell in a 4th round pick? Will Campbell in a 3rd round pick is probably what it would be. The more players of need, like the more skill position players to go ahead of 16, the better chance I would see the Cardinals taking a little bit of a leap. And you would think conventional wisdom would think, no, that just means that they just fall in their lap. Sure, that it's the best of all worlds. While I completely understand that, and while I'm going to argue that side in the next segment, say Will Johnson's there at 13. Or they're at 11. You think the Cowboys are going to take either running back or wide receiver at 12. So it's like the 10 to 14 range is where I would think the Cardinals would trade up because it wouldn't cost that much. It costs 1 3rd-round pick in 1 draft. It's not ruining the future, okay? Oh, they only have 5 picks. Who cares? They're going to get the guy that they want. Like, let's be adults about this. But in that situation, it was like there's no way that player should have been there at that position and still on the board. Those are the things where Monty Osborne's ears will perk up. Be like, what's it going to take? What's it going to take? Because of a player, but because of a team at 11 or 14 or something like that can move back 2 spots, pick up an extra 4th. Maybe it's worth it for them more than the Cardinals going and getting the player that they want on their big board that they didn't think was going to be there. The wish to haves. The wish to haves on the big board. It's like, there's no way this player is going to drop. And if they do, this is our list. If a player that drops to outside the top 10 that's on their short list there, yeah, you better believe he's picking up the phone, and he should. Because one third-round pick in one draft is not going to make or break an organization. But moving up and getting a guy that should be a top 5 pick that dropped out of the top 10 because players went wide receiver, running back, and quarterback happy, yeah, that's something Monty Osborne can pounce on. So that's a situation. It's got to be a lot more tailored to an exactly perfect situation where they wouldn't have to move up too far to get the player, which in turn would mean they wouldn't have to give up too much capital to move up and get the player. That's why third, like 3 picks, 2 picks, 3 picks, pick up a fourth. It's doable. Pick up a third if you've got to move up 3 or 4 picks. It's worth it if you get your dude you had no business thinking that you'd be getting. So it's one of those, like, in an ideal situation, everything can change. And at 16, if one of there's no way this guy's going to drop becomes within reach, which becomes a perfect situation that nobody could ever seen, you adjust. Other than that, I mean, this is the most far-fetched of the 3, of course. But also, the Cardinals are in position, just like they're in a position to trade for Jalen Ramsey. It's not exactly the same, but it's under the same umbrella. Let me explain. They can do whatever the hell they want, and it won't crater the future in this draft. Like, you're not going to trade 3 first-round picks for anybody. Like, it's not on the table. So anything with any sort of rationale behind it, moves-wise, whether it be trading for a player who's already on a different team, already under contract, like Jalen Ramsey, or moving up. They're not going to move up to the top 5. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make any sense. Like, in that wheelhouse of where they are, nothing they can do, if it works out the opposite of good, if it's the worst possible move the Cardinals could have made in the first round of the draft, it still wouldn't stop the locomotive. Barring, trading away Trey McBride or like things that are outside of the realm of normalcy. In that pocket, the Cardinals are in at 16. If they were to move up to, say they moved up to 9 even, and you give a third and a fourth or something like that, it's like, oh no, they only have 2 picks in this draft. So what? They got their dude they didn't think they were going to get, and they have a second-round pick, and they have a roster that's ready to rock pretty much. Now, that's not going to happen. But even if they did, and that first-round pick didn't work out, they have all their picks next year, they've got all the money, and they've got a roster that's ready to rip as is. It's not the best roster in the NFL, but the 0-1 jump from the end of last season to now, add a first and second-round pick, they're going to be so much better than they were last year on paper already. So if you want to get cute, and you want to play with fire a little bit, even if you get burned, it's not going to ruin the future. Which is a fantastic and kind of foreign place to be in if you're an Arizona Cardinal media member, fan, or definitely the organization themselves. And with all that said, naturally, this is the least possible outcome. But with how many wide receivers and how many running backs and how many, like, dude, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, if Jackson Dart goes in the top 10, I wouldn't be surprised. This is what happens. This is what happens every year. Somebody surprises somebody. They see one game film that they're in love with. They're like, I can work with that. It can work in our system, whatever it is. I didn't even mention tight ends with Tyler Warren and the Loveland kid from Minnesota. Who knows? From Michigan. Who knows if he goes ahead of 16? Tyler Warren's going. Ashton Genty's going. Either Matthew Golden or T-Mac are going, or both. Say both for the sake of the argument. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Jackson Dart. Let's just say that's 7 off the top of my head, okay? So that leaves 9 first-round picks. 9 guys who in pretty much any other draft would be top 3. There's going to be so much talent within reach, within fingertip reach. All you have to do is give up a pick. I'm just saying, it's possible. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. You would think the best chance, the odds-on favorite chance of what the Cardinals do at 16 is just pick at 16. What does that look like? From a broader lens, now that we have a lot more information about the roster and the path forward, what We'll discuss that next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends at Upwork. I have personal experience with Upwork. Okay. I've put my resume on it. I've worked jobs over the years before, jumping into what I'm doing now with Upwork. But if you're scaling your business, it requires the right expertise at the right time. And with Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers like I was at the time in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives business flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button, man. Turn notifications on. It's going to get really fun really fast here. And while discussing the Cardinals moving up from 16, if the perfect situation it presents itself, for those who've listened for a long time, every day, you'll know, I think it's a fool's errand to not talk about everything. I think I'm doing you a disservice by not discussing every possibility that the Cardinals could do at 16, that they could implement at 16. And if somebody drops outside of the top 10, like Dallas Turner last year, perfect example. Minnesota went up and grabbed him. Dallas Turner was supposed to go at 9, no later than 9 to Atlanta, and then Atlanta took Michael Penix. And then Minnesota moved up a couple spots, gave up negligible, small amount of draft capital, and they got a dude. He hasn't been great, but he was the odds-on pass rush favorite last draft, and he dropped out of the top 10. It happens. It happens. Sticking and picking at 16 is, of course, the most palatable. The safest is the wrong word, but what seems to be in the cards, because this is a draft that at this point nobody wants to move up, at least outside of the top 10, if it's not for a quarterback. In the teens, in the mid-20s, while I think that's hooey fish, there are always teams that are going to want to trade up. And I've notated multiple times on the show, I would think it'd be for a running back or a wide receiver who drops. And 16 is like the perfect spot for a wide receiver who drops. And you don't want him to get, into the mid-20s if you're drafting at 27 or 28. We'll talk about that in the next segment. Picking at 16, the Cardinals can get whatever they want. Now, is that going to translate into an all-pro guy? We don't know. These pass rushers who are slated to go in the teens aren't top 10 pass rushers. Otherwise, they'd be going in the top 10, like Abdul Carter. So when you look at that, and sure, a handful of these guys are going to be Pro Bowlers. It happens every year. It doesn't matter what the position is. Every draft has different strengths. And when you look at 16, people who are playing a little bit safer with what they think the Cardinals should do, whatever that may be, whether that's interior defensive line, add to the pass rush, add to the offensive line, add a corner, add a wide receiver, even if you want to throw it in there. It's safe. And they can do whatever they want. They can add a piece who will most likely be a starter to a position of need on this roster. You can do it. You can do it at 16. No matter what, you'll be able to do it. You got to pick the right guy. You got to pick the right scheme guy. And I'm not saying, it's not going to happen because of this. No, they just got to figure out their dudes. They've got their big board. I'm sure it's pretty much rounded out into shape at this point. I think this is the interesting part. And this is, again, just another wrinkle. Can it be said that there's more pressure on them to get it right if they stay at 16? You could say, sure, they trade up. It's got to be, they're going to have an upper echelon guy. That the middle class of this draft is gigantic. The top, no. So if you can get the top offensive lineman, the top corner, something like that, where you trade up, it's like, okay, well, you see the there's less to decipher with the top interior defensive lineman, the top pass rush, a dual card, they're not going to get him. The top corner, like there's less question marks with those dudes. So it's kind of easier it's like, well, they're never going to get him anyway. So you're not even looking at him. And that's why the exact perfect case, like a Slumdog Millionaire scenario has to happen for them to be able to get somebody like that. But at 16, it's like, get it right. You trade back, you're punting on any, like if they trade back, you're punting on having to get it right because you're getting more draft capital. That's why you move back, because there's nobody worth staying at 16 that supersedes getting somebody maybe from a different position and then getting an extra pick. So could be argued there's more pressure than any other scenario if they were to just stick and pick at 16, because you got to pick from the lot. Garrett Williams, James Pierce, Jalen Walker, who seems to be going in the top 10 now. The Barron kid out of Texas, I think. I can't remember the second corner. If they do go wide receiver, I just throw wide receiver in there because who the hell knows? I think it'd be a terrible idea. I don't think they're going to do it. I think it just shows that national media hasn't caught up to the Cardinals, and they shouldn't. The Cardinals have been irrelevant, so why would they pay attention like they pay attention to other teams? I think I've convinced myself that they have the most pressure to get it right if they stay at 16, which is fine. I mean, they're equipped to do it, but they've got to pick. They got to make the right choice, the right position group for the right scheme, specifically defensively. Or if they draft, like if Kelvin Banks is there, it's like, how do you pass on a bookend with Paris Johnson Jr. for the next decade? How do you pass on that? Because they need pass rush help. They need offensive line help. They need interior defensive line help. They need pass rush, or they need offensive line help. Like, I don't know where the offensive line is fine came in. I've got receipts from the second half of last season where the offensive line completely cratered and the Cardinals started losing games. Like, the offensive line's bad. Well, what you can do is draft one of the best offensive linemen in the next draft, put him at right tackle, and then just have he and Paris Johnson Jr., frolicking in the meadows for the next decade, protecting whoever the hell the quarterback is. Regardless. Most likely they'll stay at 16. It's not most likely because they don't want to trade back. It's most likely because the suitor needs to be there. They need to find a trade partner. And I just don't know until we see what the run out is, especially in my opinion, with running backs and wide receivers and tight ends, I guess. I mean, there's no way Tyler Warren's going out of the top 10. That would be what teams would trade up for. Maybe a quarterback if somebody wanted to come up and get Jalen Milroe. There's rumblings that he's going to go in the first round. Like, it gets Looney Tunes the last 48 hours before the draft. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be a first. I'm just saying, like, names come out of the woodwork all the time. Michael Penix last year. Nobody saw that. Chances are they'll stick and pick at 16. What if they trade back? What if they do find a suitor? What would need to be the package to trade back? What run out would have to come off the board for them to want to trade back? Discuss both of those things. As we wrap up here, draft week's next week. Look at us, man. Look at us. We're almost there. Woo! Next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your pair controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 5 and Avowed, or Black Ops 6 and Avowed. As easy as you stream for all your favorite shows on Fire Stick. Same thing. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube third generation. Least likely trade up, most likely stay at 16. There's that other option where you need a dance partner to move back. You need a two-step partner to move back. And, we've seen a lot of moving back from the Cardinals. They moved back twice, Monty Osborne's first draft, with Paris Johnson Jr. and then moving back up, and then B.J. Ojulari moving back, Will Levis. The Tennessee Titans came up and took Will Levis at the top of the second round. They've accumulated picks. They had 4 third-round picks last year. I know that Monty Osborne loves building through the draft. It's obvious. And that's how competency is shown from a GM perspective, where you add some veterans and then you coach and teach and mature talent under your guys. They don't need to get younger. Okay. Yes, Calais Campbell's 39. Yes, Delvin Tomlinson is over 30. Okay. By and large, this is a young roster. 30 for an offensive lineman is not old. By and large, they're a young roster. Budda Baker, you think he looks his age the way he plays? I think looking at age and making a determination is simple-minded. James Conner had some of the best running back numbers in the NFL last year. Oh, he's old. Does he play old? Let's think outside. Let's think beyond just the first layer here, shall we? So with that, trading back, while I understood it 1,000,000% during the first draft especially, they don't need to get younger. So if this were 2 years ago or 3 years ago and they were at 16 and it was a deep pass rush draft and it was a deep defensive tackle draft and you just automatically move back, you can pick up a third, pick up a fourth, depending on how far you move back. You need picks. You need young guys. You need as many, as people say, bites of the apple as possible. That's not this. So they need a trade partner, and there will be a trade partner. Somebody will trade up. It's like, oh, nobody wants to trade up. Okay. Everybody wants to see how this board goes because nobody knows what the hell's going to happen. That's the only reason why it's quiet. And people want to stay coy, I would assume. If the Cardinals move back from 16 to 21 and pick up a third this year, cool. But what's the target? What's the target to move back? Are you punting on an offensive lineman? Was there a string of edge rushers gone? So there's plenty of defensive tackles you could pick from if you move back a few spots. Were there 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers and 2 tight ends taken and 3 quarterbacks, which is 9 of the 15 picks before the Cardinals picked, and Will Johnson 10? So they're pretty much picking at 16 at 21 if they were to move back because the same players are going to be on the board because you're doing the math with all the players. Okay, so if 5 of these players get taken, there's still 1 guy that we want anyways, so let's move back anyways and pick up a pick on day 2. Or is Monty Osborne stubborn? And stubborn doesn't have a poor connotation. Is he stuck in his ways? He goes, no, we're trading back because we want another day 2 pick. Because this is the first time they've been this light with picks with each of the first 5 rounds. Pretty good problem to have. But you want to get a third rounder. They want to draft a running back. They want to draft a wide receiver. They want to draft a quarterback in the 4th round. You need an extra pick to allocate, draft capital for right now. The only way I would see the Cardinals entertaining drafting a running back is if they were to trade back and then pick up another pick. For people that are wondering, Cam Scattergood, can we just? Why? He went to Arizona State. I don't care. He's a homegrown guy. No, he's not. But he go to Sacramento State his first 2 years? Come on. But Arizona, who cares? There's 0 ties between Arizona State and the Arizona Cardinals. It'd be fun. Yeah, it would. Fun doesn't build great rosters a lot of the time. Ask the Cowboys. So the trade back thing is fascinating. The one thing that I'll say this. Obviously, I'll say this because I'm stupid. You know that Monty Osborne won't make a mistake by getting less value if they were to trade back. He's going to get the pick necessary to make it worth their while to trade back. And also, on top of that, if their number one guy on the board is there at 16, they're just going to stick at 16, obviously. Like, there's no reason to get cute. They don't have to. They don't have to pepper this roster with youth. The most important players on this roster are young. Some are on second contracts, but if you look, Parrish Jones Jr., rookie, Garrett Williams, rookie. Trey McBride just got paid, but it was pennies on the dollar for his value on the team. Marvin Harris Jr., rookie. Michael Wilson, rookie. David Taylor Demerson on the outside, rookie. Trey Benson, rookie. Nobody makes any money in the offensive line. Jonah Williams makes some, but they can move off it quickly after this year, if not before. I mean, he could be a post-June first cut if they want him to be. They're in the bottom 6 of offensive line salary. They don't need to get younger. They don't need to get cheaper. They need guys that they know can rip right away. The one thing you hope, if trade back is an option, is that there's a bidding war for one guy at 16, say T-Mac or Matthew Golden. I'm telling you, it's going to be a wide receiver or Omarion Hampton. Like, it's going to be one of those dudes. Unless there's a bidding war where the Cardinals are just like, what do you got? We're chilling. How much? I think stick and pick is the move. Keep it simple. Get it right. Move the hell on. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Hope you have a great weekend. Draft week starts next week. It's going to be fun. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you on Monday.